Strategy and tactical RPGs have quickly become one of my favorite subgenres of RPGs. They compound some of my favorite aspects of what makes traditional turn-based RPGs great by adding movement and positioning. Having to not only plan your next turn, you need to be a few steps ahead and figure out what you want to do on the battle map. I've played quite a number of strategy RPGs on the Nintendo Switch, and here is my must-play list. Also, don't forget, if you like the content here, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and visit switchrpg.com for all your RPG needs on the Nintendo Switch. Mario + Rabbids is a fun strategy RPG that does enough for me to consider it an RPG. Initially, I thought I was going to despise this title due to the Rabbids, but that wasn't the case at all. There's a good variety to their weapons, and their mechanics can change the tide in battles. Mario + Rabbids is also a great entry-level strategy game. So folks with children, this is a great starter. It combines the characters we all know and love with simple RPG mechanics. You can often find this title on sale, so there's just really no excuse to not try it. Into the Breach is a smaller scale mech-based tactical RPG where you defend the world against an alien invasion. Of all the titles mentioned so far, Into the Breach feels more like a chess match where you need to plan out your attacks to achieve the mission objective. While there's no elevation to gain tactical advantage, you can use the environment to your advantage. Not only can you straight up attack your opponent, but you can push and pull the opposing mechs to get your advantage. Even though it is forecasted what the enemy will be doing on their turn, as a player, you need to decide your fates. Will you save a civilian building, or will you sacrifice one of your mechs for the greater good? I've spent a considerable amount of time playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. Not only does it provide good tactical combat, you can forge relationships with other characters / students in the game, which kind of seems wrong, but let's just ignore that relationship for now. Fire Emblem has you choosing between 3 different schools and preparing your students for real-life war. In my opinion, the actual combat was a little redundant, as they've offered very little in terms of variety. Meaning most combat scenarios were very similar, either reaching a goal or clearing out a group of enemies. I just wish there was a little more in terms of combat. For many of the same reasons I enjoy my number 1 game on the list, Triangle Strategy has absolutely stunning pixel art with HD 2D graphics and a powerful soundtrack. Triangle Strategy takes its time by setting up a political drama that occurs 30 years after a major conflict. All seems peaceful until momentum starts to shift you into making decisions that have a lasting impact in the layout of the remainder of the game. Gameplay wise, during combat you'll be moving your party through a grid-based battlefield that can be manipulated to your advantage. For example, you can cast fire spells on the ground causing rough terrain to slow your enemy, or you could potentially use wind spells to blow your adversaries right off a cliff. There are so many other potential combinations of things that can be done, which is what makes this game, especially the combat, just so engaging. In saying this, I can see where some people lose interest in Triangle Strategy. As I've said, it's a political drama and the narrative can be disinteresting for some people. With a slow start in the beginning, eventually Triangle Strategy picks up the pace and has you enthralled with its narrative. I don't think I could say it enough. Divinity Original Sin 2 is my all-time favorite RPG. While the Nintendo Switch may not be the preferred method of playing this title, I will say that it has very little problems keeping up. Larian Studios has done an amazing job at adapting this CRPG style strategy RPG for console play. And don't let the name fool you. Although this might be the second game in the series, it is not at all a requirement to play the first one. Now, let's get into the gameplay. Divinity Original Sin 2 uses an action point system for movement, using items and skills or spells. You can also create many environmental effects that can manipulate the battlefield. For example, an oil slick can be casted onto the field to create a slippery surface, making you or your enemies fall to the ground. And on top of that, you can cast fire on that surface and make it erupt into a wall of flames. Oh, and that's not all. Douse that wall of flames with water and now you have a steam cloud obscuring vision, and if there's any water left, you can let your mage in the party cast an ice spell to see everyone falling on their behinds. You can see where I'm going with this, right? There are tons of different ways to get through battles, and if you're at all into tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, this may be the closest you'll get on the Nintendo Switch. There are so many ways to even just build your character that feels endless. But don't worry, you can respec at any time, so feel free to experiment. I could go on forever. Divinity Original Sin 2 is just one of those games that makes me feel so happy when I even talk about it to friends or hear its music during D&D sessions. Just please do yourself a favor and check out some gameplay. It's well worth it. Well, there you have it, my 5 favorite strategy/tactical RPGs on the Switch, and actually I consider these must play. There are so many others I didn't even mention. In fact, while I still have your attention, do yourselves a favor and take a look at the Banner Saga collection, Fell, Seal, Arbiter's Mark, Brigandine, and Banner of the Maid. So, what is your favorite strategy RPG? What do you consider must play? If you like what you've seen, don't forget to leave a like and be sure to subscribe.